When you watched Colin Kaepernick go through that situation and were able to relate to him on a sense of not that you lost your profession because of what happened, but the way that certain people began to perceive you, whether it was what people calling you a cop hater or referring to you as these things that you're not. How did you deal with that? Not on a professional level, but on a personal level, because you knew the account of what had happened to you, but you had so many people mischaracterizing you as a person. How did that affect you?
Well, for me, it was another instance of trying to toughen up your skin. You're a public figure for a long time. You hear a lot of stuff, and I was very used to that. I'm very used to people criticizing my tennis because that's what I was doing for so long. It very rarely went personal, so I never had a problem with that. If anyone's a commentator or critic and they want to talk about my forehand, my backhand, whatever they want to talk about, that's fine. They're doing their job. When they get personal, I definitely did have some problems with that. That had nothing to do with my play on the court, so I didn't like that. But then once I'm retired and this happens to me, it's all personal. It has nothing to do with tennis. And so I had to sort of readjust, because now no matter what, they're talking about what I believe. They're talking about my thoughts. They're talking about my actions. They're talking about if I'm doing enough, if I'm not doing anything, and I've, being mixed race, I've always had to learn a little bit about people, because I feel like there's a lot of times where you're going to be questioned by both sides.
You're not black enough and you're not white enough because you're,
Exactly. So I always felt like, and I remember actually very vividly the first time I was really aware of the, what position I may be in life, when my mom was confronted with someone, a tennis parent that said, I feel sorry for James. He's going to be, he looks like he's going to be, I was about 11 years old. He looks like he's going to be a good player, but he could be hated by both sides. My mom immediately went back. She said, I look at it the other way. He's going to be loved by both sides. And I always thought about that, because I think there shouldn't have to be a way of proving yourself all the time. You can be yourself. And that can and should be good enough. But to hear all this criticism, it brought back a lot of those memories of, well, he grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut, which is predominantly white, but he learned to play in Harlem, which is predominantly black. And then he went to Harvard, which is, this elitist school. And then he hired a black agent, but he's got a white coach. And it shouldn't, I would almost like laugh and think about all these white players that I was friends with, and think about the fact that they don't have to worry about the race of their coach or what's going on with in those kind of situations. And, at times being a young kid, I was a little jealous. Like, why do I have to think about this all the time? So then this brought back a lot of memories when I'm being criticized for anything that happened to me. Again, it's a way of sort of victim shaming. Like I didn't do anything wrong, and I'm getting blamed for having an opinion. And so I started having to have a little bit tougher skin and just say, you know what? I'm not going to apologize for having my opinion. If you think it's different and you want to talk about that, that's fine. But if you just want to hurl insults and say that I'm wrong and you don't know exactly where I'm coming from, that says a little more about you. And I started thinking about that a lot with the people. And then when you bring in social media and you got people just yelling and, behind their computer screens and saying this, and, a lot of times when they're so vile, the things they're saying, I just try to kind of laugh and picture someone coming up and saying that to my face. And I know, the person may have 2 years ago walked up and said, "Hey, I'm a big fan." Meanwhile, behind their keyboard, they're going to rip me. So I just think, I almost look at it as they're not real. They're just, they're just spewing their hatred, and it's on them to worry about that instead of asking me a question. If they have a genuine complaint about what I'm thinking, let's talk about it. I'm not so closed-minded that I can't talk about something. And I just think, if you're just going to spew hatred, it stops the conversation before it starts.